Hey everyone, I've been a big fan of the Assassin's Creed franchise since I played Origins a few years ago, and it was amazing to go back and play all of the games of the franchise that came before it. Unfortunately, I have not been crazy about the direction they've taken the franchise in since Origins, however, I am always hopeful it will improve going forward. If you saw my Valhalla review, you'll know the game just did not work for me personally. However, there's been a lot of Ubisoft games that have had difficult launches only to turn things around after patches and content updates. So I was curious to see if Valhalla has improved since it's released, and to see if the Siege of Paris DLC is worth it for people to check out if they own the base game. And I will say in some regards, this DLC did pleasantly surprise me, and in others, it was exactly what I expected. If you do enjoy this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more gaming news, reviews, and discussions. With that said, let's get into it. To start off, you do not need to finish the main campaign to start the Siege of Paris DLC, you only need to be power level 200. Although that being said, I'll be going over if it's a good idea to start at power level 200 or not later in the review. Ivor is visited by two strangers, a Dane hailing from Siegfried's army in Francia alongside a Frankian merchant. That Dane, Toka, implores Eivor to assist her clan against the Mad King Charles of Francia. She reveals that his troops killed her father and are continually attacking her clan, so she needs allies to help her defeat the Frankian army. Ivor, concerned that King Charles might set his sights on England after he defeats the Danes in Francia, decides to assist Toka to prevent this from happening. When Eivor arrives in Francia, it's clear that things are not going well. Siegfried is deeply troubled over the loss of his brother, Toka's father, and hungers for revenge. However, Ivor hopes that he can solve things peacefully and makes an attempt at diplomacy first. The story has a much more dark and dreary tone than the main game, and Francia itself represents that. It's a land torn apart by war and disease, and it shows in the gloomy tone of the landscape. Much like in the base game, this leads to alliances and betrayals and a few twists along the way. And of course, it all culminates in the eventual Siege of Paris itself, which I imagine is the big draw for most people, alongside the return of black box assassinations. Like in Unity and Syndicate, there's now open-ended assassination missions with hidden objectives that will allow you to pull off special assassinations. While I was happy to see this return, unfortunately the execution left a lot to be desired. They were considerably easier than in the games I mentioned, and the level design was far more basic. It was too easy to find the custom assassination paths, and some of the missions were extremely short. I also ran into technical issues during the first one, ruining my assassination attempt, which was disappointing. At least they are back, and hopefully over time they can be improved to go back to where they were several games ago. Outside of the main story, all of the same side content from the base game has been transferred over with a few new additions. There's a rebel faction trying to take down King Charles themselves, so Ivor is able to do missions and build up a reputation with them. The missions are very basic, usually just kill a group of enemies or find some hidden intel in an enemy camp. There's some mechanics with it where you can have rebels accompany you, and depending on how many survive, you get rewarded with a new currency. This can be used to upgrade rebel troops, buy new gear, and cosmetics. Some of the gear, especially the runes, are really amazing, so while it can be a bit of a grind, it can be worth it to level up your reputation with them. The other new mechanic is rats. Lots and lots of rats. They get added into most puzzles and are more of an extreme annoyance than fun gameplay mechanic. You have to swing your weapon to shoo them away, and if you can find a sewer grate, then you can herd them inside it, then cover it up with any object to clear them out. Outside of those two mechanics, all of the side content from the base game returns, stacking stones, fishing, mini side quests, new endgame bosses, gear, and more. One of the main side quests was to find hidden one caches across Francia. I was pretty excited when I found this quest, and figured we might get something like the Templar hidden base parkour puzzles from Assassin's Creed 2. However, when I found the hidden areas, they took less than a minute to go through, and while the eventual reward was nice, overall it did end up disappointing me. You do get some more story to what happened to the assassins, but it's not really very satisfying. Two new weapon types were added in, the short sword and scythe. I personally enjoyed the scythe, and while the short swords were nice, I felt like dual-wielding two-handed swords did a lot more damage. The issue I ran into was that I wanted to try out all of the new weapons and gear, but didn't have enough resources to upgrade them. So instead of playing the DLC, I had to go back to the main game and grind materials so I could actually try them out, which really slowed down the pace of the game. Granted, I haven't played the game since it came out, so people who have been playing consistently probably have enough materials built up to upgrade at least a few items. That being said, I still feel like the amount you need to upgrade is beyond excessive and purposely designed that way to annoy you into buying the microtransactions. I know you can now downgrade gear, but I don't want to have to downgrade something every time I want to switch a weapon. It's really not a good solution. Also, I'm not really sure why they made it a power level 200 requirement to start the DLC, as everything I ran into was considerably higher than that. I was power level 330 when I started and everything was a skull to me, although I still found it to be too easy on normal difficulty. If you are playing on a harder difficulty, I would recommend maybe grinding up a bit more before starting the DLC, but I doubt it will still be that hard. The DLC can take roughly 6 to 10 hours to complete. It really depends on how much side content you want to do. However, considering how excessively long the main game was, it was nice to have a shorter, tighter narrative, and it made the experience much more enjoyable. While it still had mostly the same issues as the main game, it did not overstay its welcome. What did drag down the experience was, at times, severe technical issues. I was shocked at how buggy the game still is, even after almost a year of updates. The actual Siege of Paris itself was borderline unplayable on the PlayStation 5. I ran into so many issues. It became a slideshow at times and made the PS5 struggle so hard that I had the game crash a few times. The only way I could progress through the siege was to pause the game for 10 to 20 seconds whenever I saw the frame rate start to heavily dip and let the game catch up. I wish I could say that was the only issue, but outside of that, I can't think of a single thing that didn't bug or glitch out on me during the DLC. My mount in particular was a nightmare. At times, the game wouldn't let me control where it went, so unless I restarted the game, I was stuck running everywhere. I imagine people who have a top-of-the-line PC can probably power through some of the issues, but if you're playing on consoles, be ready for a very buggy experience. I haven't seen any new patches at the time of writing, so it's unclear if they ever will fix the experience or not. And it's a shame because, like I said, it was overall a better experience than the main game. The writing was a little better than the main game, although I do think they need to find a new writing staff for the series going forward. I liked some of the characters, but King Charles never ended up being a particularly deep or interesting main villain. There were times where it was very clear you were going to be betrayed, but even with all the dialogue options, you couldn't do anything about it. Also, at times you only had the illusion of choice, as no matter what you chose, it functionally ended up being the same thing. But like I said, since it was shorter, it was over before it overstayed its welcome. I do wish the siege itself wasn't ruined by glitches because I had been really looking forward to that more than anything else. Overall, it's more Assassin's Creed Valhalla that's very, very slightly better than the main game. If you enjoyed the rest of the game, I'd say try it out, if it didn't cost an absurd $25. However, if you bought the gold edition that comes with a season pass, or you're playing the game on Uplay Plus and are enjoying it, then go for it. Otherwise, I would say skip it entirely unless the season pass somehow goes on sale for less than $10, which I doubt will ever happen. I was also pretty shocked to find out this will not be the final content for Valhalla as well. It's been confirmed that there will be additional content coming in the future, although they did not specify what will be coming. Given how insanely well the game has sold, I wouldn't be surprised to see another overpriced season pass added in, along with a ton more microtransactions. But before they add in anything else, they really need to do several rounds of bug fixes because this is one of the worst experiences I've had in that department ever, and I've played a lot of early access Steam games. I'm still not happy about where the franchise is headed, but clearly I'm in the minority, so hopefully more studios like Sucker Punch will come in and fill that void for an Assassin's Creed game. Anyways, thanks for watching, see you all in the next video.